Welcome to Universal Talk. On today's show, we ponder the financial outlook for 2010 and who are the true key players in global economics. Let's present the case. First, we must consider economics as a whole and ask some serious questions like, why are we not all allotted free energy, food, clothing, and other necessities as a birth-given right to this planet? Why do we actually pay taxes? Why are there such things as taxes and interest? What if humanity was actually run by only a few elite families? What if that is why we can never seem to get ahead and continue to fall into the same pitfalls over and over? What if we were all like little worker bees, just seemingly trying to work and get ahead, but with each hour worked results in money generated but directed to the powers to be, and allowed the rich to get richer and the poor to stay right where they are? In a moment, we will have George Green on the show. George is a former investment banker, registered financial principal with the NASD, and a broker-dealer. He is a securities underwriter, real estate developer, insurance broker, and publisher of Handbook for the New Paradigm, written by the ETs. Hello, George Green. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great.
Well, can you tell the listeners a little more about yourself?
Well, you pretty much gave a summary of all that, except for the game of Monopoly, which I got involved into when I was pretty young, which basically involved finding out what money really was, and also the players that play with it. And I got to a position of a lot of power because I had a lot of money. I ran around with the guys that are planning on taking over the world. Well, that resulted in me started analyzing everything that you were just talking about. In other words, what is money? Believe it or not, they don't have a definition of it. They just, if your listeners would just contact the United Nations and ask them for a book called Systems of National Accounting. That's the accounting book for the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. And in it itself, they tell you that they don't have a definition of money.
Wow.
So that was one of the strange things I looked at.
Right.
That's only because they were coming after me for selling money. Well, if I was going to sell something, then I have to have identification of it. So I finally got the state of Colorado, where I was at, to issue me a license to sell money. And in the precariously position of that, I would sell money to banks. You know how right now the banks tell you, come over and put your money in here, put your $10,000 in here. We're going to pay you 1.5% interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, inflation's in the real rate of inflation is probably closer to 10%. So if inflation goes up 10% and they're going to pay you 1.5%, you've lost 8.5% right away, haven't you?
Right.
In the same period of time. So no matter what happens, you're in a losing game right at this minute. Now the plans, because I ran around with these guys, was set into motion because some of the meetings I set into says, what's the number one problem around the world, Joe? Yourself, you can understand this, right?
Mm-hmm.
The number one problem. A, we have too many people.
Right.
That's what they said.
Right.
Well, and most people will say, okay, that's right. Well, there is a group of people that got together, and I sat with some of them, and we're talking about how to reduce the world's population. Now, Henry Kissinger says, look, the number one problem is we have too many people. And he says the number one aphrodisiac is power. So what we'll do is we'll put people into power in certain positions as we go forward with our plan. And they call it the Plan 2000. In fact, they put it in writing. Every congressman and senator got it because Jimmy Carter put it in writing. And I was asked to be his finance chairman to tell you how this all worked around.
Wow.
When I got to looking into this plan, and they think they've won already, except for they're way behind their schedule. Plans have certain goals. The plan was to get a war started in the Middle East in the year 2000. That's the reason why they call it the Plan 2000.
Mm-hmm.
And that is to spread to the United States as part of their population reduction program. Meanwhile, the money that we have is all fiat. It's all paper. Doesn't mean anything. It's just something that we've agreed to use to keep track of the exchange of goods and services. That's all it is.
Right.
Meanwhile, we have given everybody the idea that you're going to be taken care of in some way. So you're going to have, and if you don't do it, we'll tell you how to do it. Like I put it into pension funds or put it into your retirement accounts and all these things. And the only place that they can put money into is, quote, is real estate and securities or the stock market. Now, the stock market's a gambling casino. You're probably aware of that.
Right.
Now, the stock market is totally rigged at this minute. They have 1 million computers out here all over the world now that just breathe second by second to watch any movement of the stock, and the computers themselves are triggered to buy and sell stock. So maybe you see in 5 minutes or 10 minutes enormous amounts of trading that's going on. That's computer generated. Now, in order to protect the public, to keep them asleep, what they do is they have the Federal Reserve, which is a private bank, has 8 members on the floor of the stock exchange. They call them the plunge committee. And that the idea is if it starts to plunge too fast, they can go in and buy, 1,000 shares of some company in order to prevent the continuation of the plunge, so the American people don't run away, if you want to call it, and dump all the stuff that they have. Of course, my advice to everybody right now is get out of the game. You don't have to play it anymore.
I see.
Get out of the stock market. Unfortunately, most people's retirement accounts are all in the stock market, and the whole thing is rigged. The whole thing is set up in order to take care of this, what they call sheep, if you want to call them, the people out here that are being led to slaughter currently. Now, that's to give you an. No, this is a world situation. It's not just a meltdown for now. It's the entire world's involved with this thing. Meanwhile, the dollar is basically the same as what the rest of the world. I do a lot of world traveling. United States is becoming the most hated country in the world. And so if you're going to travel someplace, call your travel agent and ask them to go to where the country that hates us the least. Because that's basically what is going on right now. And it isn't the people in the United States. It's the dollar, because we have created this incredible society based on debt. We borrow money from this created entity, the banks, the Federal Reserve, which is the Federal Reserve allows the banks that are sitting, they become members of the Federal Reserve. So it's a big franchise. It's like being a Western, franchise of Best Western or McDonald's or any of them. Mm-hmm. You buy a franchise. Well, the franchise in the banking business allows you to create at least 10 times your deposit base out of thin air and loan it out. Well, there's no way that the little guy can compete against that. Meanwhile, you did mention something as a lead-in. People go to work and they pay taxes. Well, constitutionally wise, the Constitution says that you shouldn't have the withholding tax is really not subject to income tax. And as Aaron Russo did in his video from Freedom to Fascism, he's got them to admit that 100% of that money goes to interest to pay the Federal Reserve, this private bank. So that makes you feel real good. All you're doing is working to pay interest to the bankers who created this firestorm that's happening to the collapse of the United States right now.
Right. Wow.
So ask me a question.
Well, who really runs the planet?
Well, it would be, if you want to come down to it, I would say today it's run by the BIS. That's the Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland. The Swiss, as you know, have always been in the money game, and what they do is keep track of the exchange of different currencies at all times. They got computers generating that. And what happens is that family, which controls that, really comes back to the Rothschild Money Trust, if you want to look at it, which controls about 85% of the world's wealth. We have books on that stuff so people can go into great detail on it. Mm-hmm. But it's okay to find out who owns it. We can give you the names and everything else. But at this point, there's nothing you can do about it, because not only do they control the country, they control the court system, they control the legal system, they control everything that you have right now, including the type of food that you eat and everything. The individual who wakes up to all this starts to identify, well, wait a minute, they're trying trying to kill us by all means necessary, and that's basically what the goal is. So within the foods, you're basically eating poisons also. They have to reduce the population because we've run out of what we call ecological balance on the planet right now. We just have too many people on the planet. And the goal is to reduce it down to what the extraterrestrials say that the planet was engineered for, which was 500 million people. They actually built the monument